Hi guys, welcome to the Patreon. We're so excited for you to be here. We want to
Yay.
give you a little bit of backstory on what this is, and then we'll chat more about books.
We are so excited for all of you guys to be here. First off, thank you to every single one of you who is here for one, spending your hard-earned money, and you get to hang out with us and get some more exclusive content and behind the scenes. And we're so excited.
So excited. I think it's going to be just a fun way to connect with you guys further and hoping to have a little bit more a tight-knit community that we can actually get to know you guys more and have longer discussion boards and longer Google Meets where we can see your faces and be able to do this long form content where me and Brady can sit and chat about books with you guys a little bit more casually.
And this is exclusive content for you guys and for you guys only. So get ready for some unhinged Brady and Rosie content because who knows what's going to happen. This is basically Rosie and I FaceTime all the time and we just giggle all the time. So this is probably just going to be that.
Yep. It's just a place for us to just gab to you guys about books and life. And yeah, definitely will be a little bit more unhinged than our normal content, which is pretty fun to do. If you guys have any questions about how the Patreon works, feel free to comment them down below and we can answer them for you. But all of it is also outlined. These little icons are so funny.
Sorry.
It's also all outlined for you guys on the different tiers. So you can see if you want to keep with the top tier membership, or if you ever want to switch to the other one, you can do that as well.
So we wanted to give you guys a little verbal rundown of everything that you can expect from our top tier, all of our 5 stars out there. Again, thank you for being here. We're so excited for everything that is to come and all of the exclusive content that you're going to get. First thing you're going to get is exclusive content just like this, what we're filming. We're planning on about 1, maybe 2 videos a month to start.
So these are going to also be some of your feedback as well. We'd love to hear what you'd want us to chat about, whether it's book content stuff. If you want us to also, on top of book content, we can do exclusive life content and different things like that. Just kind of chatting with your friends vibes for these types of videos. My Wi-Fi seemed to be taking a shit on this part. Right?
Okay, so take a second right now, drop a comment below and let us know any exclusive content that you guys want to see from us, because you guys are the ones paying for the content and we want to make sure we're making the content that you guys want to see. So whether it's book related, more life related, just give us a few options.
Got it. But did you see me I was frozen in it and I was like,
another perk of you being here on the 5-star tier, our top tier, you will also have a say in every single book that we choose going forward for our book of the month.
So on top of you guys getting to help us pick out the book of the month, you will also get the title 2 weeks earlier than everyone else, which is so nice if you want to place a hold on Libby or use an Audible credit, save that up. Or if you also just want to scour your local bookstore or Bargain Books and find it on there.
Another perk to being on our 5-star tier is you get access to our Geneva group chat. So think of it as the Brady Rosie Book Talk exclusive group message. So obviously you're going to have the opportunity to chat about the book that we're reading, any books in general pretty much, but then it's also just a free range group chat where if you have questions about us specifically, it's just an open forum basically.
It also is a good way if you want to connect with other people in the group. It's a little bit more personal way to chat with people versus doing so on the Fable or on Instagram. So it's just our little landing page of all of our community stuff.
Honestly, I really want us to all become friends and for us to be friends with you guys, for you guys to be friends with each other. And that's really why we started this, is more of a community for all of us to come together, chat about books in general, but then also have a common book each month to be chatting about. But again, we're so excited. I keep saying it, but we are genuinely so excited.
Another fun perk that you have in this group is that you're going to have early access to any merch drops that we do. So those things are in the works. Not me talking. I have I have an accent. Brady and I have big plans too to hopefully host some in-person events as well. So you'll also be the first ones to know about that and get early access to any of those things, which will be so much fun. I feel this year is going to be so exciting to hopefully meet a lot of you guys, get to chat about books and share these common interests and kind of come together. So super excited about that.
That's definitely one of the major things that I'm really looking forward to. One, Rosie and I have never met in real life, which it's so funny. Ryan comes home from work. If you're new here, Ryan is Rosie's husband and Gavin is my boyfriend. And they'll come home from work and we're just sitting here on FaceTime, just chatting. And I remember the other night, Gavin was isn't it crazy that Rosie's one of your really good friends and you guys still haven't met in real life? And I'm that's going to change this year.
Yes, it is crazy. And this is what I think is so cool about social media. And I think why we also feel really passionate about creating this page is because we connected over social media. So we'd love to be able to connect with a lot of you guys on like a more personal level. And I just feel like it's just going to be so much fun. I literally can't stop thinking about this book club. It's the only thing on my brain at all times.
Same here. It's like I wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and I'm like in my notes app writing down notes. And I send Rosie, and I have a 2-hour time difference. So I'm 2 hours ahead. I'm on the East Coast and she's Mountain Standard Time. So like I'll wake up at 7 a.m. and I'm like voice memoing Rosie and I'm like, shit, it's 5 a.m. Rosie's time. And I'll like text back, I'll text her and be like, wait, you don't have to listen to that right now. Like give yourself a chance to wake up. Like you don't have to listen to that right this second.
Well, like little does Brady know that I wake up at like 6 a.m. also thinking about the book club. So it's completely fine with me. We can just chat at the earliest parts of the hours.
Another perk is that you guys are going to be added to our close friends story on Instagram, which I love close friends. I use my personal close friends all the time to talk with my close friends. So the close friends, what you can kind of expect from it is more like unhinged versions of Rosie and I, just kind of like what we're reading in the moment and our thoughts like in real time. So it's going to be really fun to just be able to kind of keep up with you guys in real time through our close friends story, so you can see what we're reading, our real and authentic thoughts like right in the moment.
So on here, we are going to be doing weekly discussion posts, which is something that we were feeling like Fable was missing. We wanted just to make like a post for each week saying how we're feeling about the book and be able to let you guys comment versus commenting under each chapter. So we're going to be able to provide that over here on Patreon, which also gives us, I think, just a more personal way to talk with you guys. And then your comments don't get so lost over like they do on the Fable. And then with that weekly schedule, that kind of gives us like the rough outline if you're wanting to read the book in like the weekly format versus like read at your own pace. So this whole area of like the Patreon landing page is just going to be like a way for us to kind of keep things a little bit more organized and be able to talk with you guys more.
Just to kind of wrap everything up, you guys will be getting at least one exclusive long form content video per month, which we're so excited to do. Like we're doing it right now and just having the best time. And today we're going to chat about our current 2024 reading goals. What is our Goodreads goal for the year? And then also our 5 most recent 5 stars, because we are two girlies who don't give 5 stars very easily. Like we're pretty tough on books. So here are the good ones. The best of the best are 5 most recent 5 stars, because that's what everybody wants to know. I think I've been a little too lenient with my 5 stars recently. I'm not going to lie. Like I've been just kind of like, you get a 5 star and you get a 5 star, except for the Wayward Pine series. That series blew me out of the water. I'm obsessed. We'll talk about it. But like,
I'm so excited that you liked it. My reading goals for the year, I'm trying to read 75 books, which I should be able to do. I read 81 last year, but I'm like trying to be reasonable with my reading goals because some months are really good and then some months are so bad with my reading. Well, I mean, so bad as in like I read 5 books versus 11 or 12. But right now, yeah, right. I'm currently at 21 books for the year, which I feel like it says I'm 7 ahead of my reading goal on Goodreads.
That's awesome. I was going to say, I feel like we've been reading like a similar amount of books. I mean, I don't know what the heck happened in February. Like it seems like everybody had a bad month of reading. So at least we weren't alone in that. But I've read 22 books so far this year, and my goal is to read 100. So you are going to surpass your goal like twofold. You'll probably read at least 100 books. I mean, if you keep going at the rate you're going.
Yeah, right. I feel like I could. I'm like, because like once my life gets busier in the summer, sometimes I'm like, I think I'm going to read more than I do. So it's like a reasonable goal. Like I feel like I gave myself a goal that I'm probably going to be able to meet, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. I remember last year, I didn't realize it was like Goodreads goals were like such a thing, and like hitting your Goodreads goal was like the biggest thing. Last year I started at 52, so 1 book a week. And then I really got into reading and I kept changing my goal. And I didn't realize like people keep their goal and then you just like surpass it. But I was like, oh, I read 75 books. I'll just change my goal to 75. But like everyone's like, no, you keep it. And then you like flex on how much you passed it. And I was like, I don't play that game.
You're like, I actually don't care about any of that.
No, me trying to race to meet my Goodreads goal by the end of the year by reading 50 different novellas.
No, literally, I'm like, you could just read all of those, like those like romance novellas that like Abby Jimenez and stuff came out with. But I think there's 9 of them.
I think there's 6.
Oh, okay. So someone I follow like posted that they read like 10 books last month and like 6 of them were that.
So you read 1 book.
Literally.
I counted. Listen, I'm being hypocritical because I counted one of them, the one worst wingman ever. And I didn't even read it. I listened to it, but it was good. It was cute. And she sent it to me on NetGalley. So I was like, sure, I'll read it. And they're cute.
It still counts, I think, towards your goal, but you can't just read like 20 novellas and say you got your Goodreads goal.
If we had to suffer through the fury, you need to read a real book.
No, we have to, you have to.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't make the rules.
This will go up on, it'll be up on Friday. So we should talk about if we've started the 7-year slip and what our thoughts are, just where we're at.
I haven't. I can't find my book right now at this point in time. I looked yesterday. I can't find it.
Someone needs to send Brady the 7-year slip because she can't find her book.
I think I put it back on my bookshelf, but like I thought it was in my little book basket right there. Like I put all of my the reads for when I do my March recap. I put them all right there, and I thought it was in there because I started like the first chapter of it like last month. But I think it's on my bookshelf.
You just have to go to the yellow section and find it.
Yep.
You're like, I'll get there.
Yep.
I've read the first week's worth of stuff but I listened to it because I was like organizing all of our laundry room stuff, and it was on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I'm really liking it so far. I think it's a good book.
Yay. Is it good on audio?
Yeah, it's good. It was easy to follow and stuff while I was like in the middle of doing other things, and I'm excited to like actually get more into it because I don't think I'm going to do the weekly reading. I need to make notes off of what I've listened to. But I'm probably just going to finish it this week and then make sure to make notes for like the discussion and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm really excited to like dive back in. I literally, like I said, I read, I think the first 1 or 2 chapters, and I really liked it because I feel like adding a little bit of like magic into a book can kind of get a little bit out there and a little bit, you know, like, I don't want to even say towards fantasy because it's not fantasy, but it can get a little bit cringy. And I feel like this one is just super well done.
Chat about our 5 most recent 5-star books, which is very fun because I like talking about the books that like I'm obsessed with. So this is always a good time. I didn't realize that I have been stingy with my 5 stars. I have a lot of like 4.5 stars in like my rankings this year, which is always funny. I'm like, why not give them a 5-star? I don't know. But
there's like something in your head that's holding you back. And that is like, you don't deserve a 5-star. Sorry.
Well, because I don't hesitate on a 5-star. I'm like, easy, 5 stars, moving on. But yeah, when I was looking back on my Goodreads, I was like, dang, it's been a minute. But so like my 5th most recent 5-star is Fourth Wing, which is really fun because my husband just finished the book. So we've been chatting about it. He also rated it 5 stars, which is funny because I was like, well, what do you rank it? And he's like, 5 stars. And I was like, oh yeah, really? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't really rank books. I read like 1 book a year. Kind of a good way to like dip my toes into fantasy. I'm still like not a fantasy girl. I mean, I like Divine Rivals. I liked Fourth Wing. I tried to get to Iron Flame and I like just couldn't get into it. So I don't know where I'm going with the series, but I loved Fourth Wing. I really did.
I know. I like don't really know what to do because I saw that Fourth Wing was slotted for what, like a 5-book deal. And I feel like now she's at the point where she hit a home run when it came to Fourth Wing. And now I don't know if it was supposed to be a 5-star or a 5-book series, or if it was just supposed to be like one standalone and then maybe like a second one, because I feel like she hit a home run and now is just kind of like fumbling the ball for like the rest of them. Like Iron Flame being how long it is. Like I picked it up and tried and I was genuinely just like, no.
It's huge. It's like not comfortable to read a book that big. And like, I mean, yeah, I read 150 pages of it in November and it like made me have a horrible reading month because I spent like 3 weeks trying to read Iron Flame.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at my Kindle and I was like, I am barely moving on this thing. And like, this book is not progressing at all. And I just felt so bored. So I do hope to pick it up again this year and like finish it. But I was so antsy to get the book. And then I like just couldn't have cared less, which kind of sucks.
No, I mean, I feel like Fourth Wing was almost like a fever dream, like the way that it came onto the scene and like you literally could not get a copy of it. Like I remember I ordered it on Amazon. It was out for a while and I ordered it on Amazon and it was still just like back ordered and back ordered and back ordered to the point that I ordered Iron Flame before I even had Fourth Wing in my hands. Like that's the phenomenon that was Fourth Wing. It literally took the world by storm. And now it's just like, I know the world is divided on like people loving Iron Flame and people really not liking Iron Flame. So I'm anxious to see where it goes because I feel like she's kind of stuck now if this is slotted for a 5-book series. Okay, well now you're going to have to keep this world building going and like I genuinely don't care.
I completely agree. I feel very like unsure how to feel about it all.
Yeah, I feel like she needs to take a note out of Rebecca Ross's book with Divine Rivals, a 2-part series, well done, a lot happens, a little bit of romance, and like we're in and we're out and we're good and we feel good. Like it was a great fantasy novel. It was a great read. We both loved it. So where did she go wrong here? Like she could have condensed it all. And I get it, like money is a huge thing, but like if your books are going to suck, why drag us through that?
If it takes like hundreds and hundreds of pages to get into a book, this was also my issue with ACOTAR. It takes hundreds and hundreds of pages of like world building, which is Iron Flame, because Iron Flame, I guess, has like a ton more world building than Fourth Wing. It's like, well, when you wrote your first book where it didn't have a lot of that, and then now I need to like suddenly learn all of these different things, I just like made me feel like I don't really care as much as I wanted to.
Yeah. And I feel like we had a decent amount of world building in Fourth Wing. Like I get the gist of it. And like honestly, for 2 girlies who aren't huge fantasy readers, I found Fourth Wing to be decently easy to understand. I feel like it's like a middle tier fantasy. Like it's not, well, Fourth Wing was not including Iron Flame. But like now we're going into like top tier fantasy where like I need to write shit down and take notes. And like I don't want to have to do that in a book.
Yep.
Which is why we aren't ACOTAR girlies. Like the way I'm sitting here and I'm like, where did you come from? Like when they're talking about all the people from the different courts and I'm like on Instagram also like, what does this person look like? And trying to find like to match up who they're talking about. I'm like,
no, that's like where I cannot trust myself reading fantasy. Like I don't feel like my brain is like creative enough, or maybe I can't comprehend enough where like every time I read fantasy, I'm like, what does this part look like? Like, what does that, like, what is the parapet? Like, I'm like,
what is a parapet? What is a parapet? What is a parapet?
So literally, the AI rendering, I'm like, someone show me what it looks like, because I'm like, but then I saw it and I was like, okay, that's what I was thinking ish. But like, I need you to literally show me what I need to understand. I can't do it.
Show me Violet walking across a parapet, like AI. Show me Violet walking across a parapet on a windy, rainy day. Like,
yes, please
help.
Yep, I agree.
Even when they get into like their armors and like the dragons and all this stuff, I'm like,
like, anyone else understand, please?
Yeah, like for the longest time, I thought that Tamlin in ACOTAR was brunette. And I was like, oh, like, no, he's literally has like long blonde hair.
Well, and that's news to me.
Basically, don't ever expect to get a fantasy book out of Brady and Rosie Book Talk. That's the takeaway from this.
Yeah, we'll do our best. We do want to read Powerless.
Yes. So. Powerless. And another one I really want to read is, what is it? One Twisted Crown or One Dark Window.
I was going to say One Dark Window. I do want to read that one too. And a girl I know and trust, she really likes fantasy though, but like she loved it. And I'm like, I feel like for the most part, we like agree on a lot of books. So
yeah. I mean, if they're easy to follow fantasy for sure, like I'm definitely down to try it. And I feel like Powerless is a good one because right now it's a standalone. Like One Dark Window has a follow-up right now. Excuse me. So that maybe wouldn't be a great book club choice, but I don't know, in the future. But we also chatted about another exclusive content behind the scenes, little piece of information. We're also thinking about doing a few reads like maybe throughout the year where Rosie and I are also reading the same book throughout the month, other than the book that we chose for the month, just to have some more things to chit chat about too. Because I feel like we read a lot of the same books anyway. So to read them at the same time and throughout the same month, it's like more stuff. Like with summer coming up, you best believe your girlies are grinding through some Ellen Hildebrand books.
Oh, yeah.
So my 5th most recent 5-star was The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. Fun fact, her last name is pronounced Pico, not Picoult. I have been ripped apart in my comments many times, by pronouncing her last name wrong. It is Pico, like Pico de Gallo. So just putting that out there. This is a World War II historical fiction for anybody out there who doesn't read historical fiction. I feel like this might be a really good place to start because it doesn't fully take place in the past. It very much so flip-flops between then and now. And it's like a storyline within a storyline within a storyline that wraps up together at the end so perfectly. And it's just like delicious.
Just love it.
So good. And it's very, obviously the parts about the Holocaust are very, very, very like gut wrenching. And I found myself tearing up a bunch of times because it absolutely is just, there's just no words for any of that part of history. But the way that this book portrays it, and it's just, Jodi Picoult can truly do no wrong. I love all of her books. Another author that I really, really, really would like to get into more of her books is definitely Jodi Picoult. I read Mad Honey by her. Did you read that?
No, I haven't, but I've heard like, I mean, kind of mixed things, but I mean, I didn't realize it's like a thriller mystery or something, right?
I would consider it more of a mystery than a thriller. I mean, there is like murder that like is the underlying cause of it, but it's not like a gruesome, gory murder. It's more of like a mystery, but it's so well done. Like it's very, very, very different.
The cover of that book is like not like I thought it was like going to be like I don't know, just like a contemporary fiction or something like that. I didn't like when I saw reviews about it, I was like, oh, there's like some mystery there that you don't see that from the cover at all.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why they say never judge a book by its cover. But listen, I'm at the bookstore judging books by their cover left and right.
No, literally, mostly I'm on Kindle Unlimited judging books by their covers. They're so
and
bad.
Ratings. The way I rely on Goodreads ratings with my life, like it's actually bad.
You're like, if it's like, what didn't you say? Like, if it's like under 3.6 or something like that, you're like, won't read it or not. You won't read it, but you're like, oh, that's a bad read.
Yeah, I probably won't get around to it. Specifically thrillers. Like if there's a thriller out there that's rated like a 3.5, like it's probably just like a KU thriller that I'm just like, I know I probably won't like it and I don't really want to waste my time reading it. But I mean, thrillers are hard. Like if you find a thriller over 4 stars, like I automatically add it to my want to read list.
For sure, because they're just like so like you either like them or you don't.
Right. Thrillers are hard. Like when I posted that I didn't really love The Drowning Woman, I had so many comments of people like, what? Like, this is one of my favorite books ever. And it was good. It was a fine book. I gave it a 3 and a 3 for me is like, it was fine, but like, you know, I probably will forget about it. I just didn't like love it.
My 4th most recent 5-star, also sorry guys, I have a little bit of a groggy throat because I'm a little sick. My 4th most recent 5-star is Caught Up by Liz Tomford, that's like back in November. So good. If you like a sports romance, this is a baseball romance based out of Chicago. And just like the dynamic of Kai and Miller is just so good in a romance. And like, I don't even know if Liz Tomford has any other books besides these 3 books. If these are her first 3 books that she's ever wrote, which please don't quote me on it in case I'm wrong and don't want to be eaten alive. Actually, I don't feel like you people here will eat any of us alive. The Selfish. She only has like 2 other books though.
Yeah. Okay. So Mile High came out in 2022, and then The Becoming Selfish was 2021, and then the second book was 2022. So kind of like right in a row. It seems like she finished Selfless and then started the Windy City series.
And those actually have pretty good ratings too, actually.
They do. They're probably on KU too. One thing about Goodreads that like I really shouldn't base all of my look at us with our matching phone cases.
Oh my God, we're so cute.
The other thing was with Goodreads ratings and why they can be so not accurate is Play Along by Liz Tomford, which is the 4th book in the Windy City series that isn't even out yet, already has a 4.49 average rating. So there are people on there just clicking the 5-star button just because they can, because the book is up. Yeah. And same with the second book in the House in the Cerulean Sea series. People are just liking it or disliking it or liking it because they're excited for it or they don't like TJ Klune as an author. So like that's an annoying thing about Goodreads is like you really just can go on and click whatever you want to click.
Yeah, because it's like they probably haven't gotten like an arc or anything. I don't know. I'm like I feel like I'm very picky about giving like smutty romance, like a spicy romance, a 5-star because most of the time it's like the same format every single book, and it's still fun. Like I love reading those types of books, but generally they're not like riveting enough to me that I'm like, that's a 5-star. But this one was just like, I just literally was obsessed with it. I loved it so much.
I also felt the same way about that one. That one was actually recommended to me by Brooke. She literally texted me and was like, I have to give you this book rec. She was like, it's the third book in the Windy City series. She was like, just push through the first two. Like they're fine, but this one is like so good.
Yeah.
And I felt that way. Like the first, did you read all three?
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like the first one, you can totally do without it. I felt like there was way too much emphasis on, I always say that his money and her body.
Oh
It
yeah.
was so like it.
What, this is that?
I guess so.
So fun. Okay.
Love it. The second book in the series is great. Ryan Shea, wonderful, delicious, but Caught Up. There's something about a single dad sports romance, like the backwards baseball hat carrying a kid. Like,
Yeah. I didn't know I liked that trope until this book. And I'm like, it just was really well done.
mhm.
And I just really liked like Miller's personality too. Like I liked that she was flawed. Like sometimes I feel like a lot of like spicy romance or romance in general, like they write the women to be like pretty perfect and then they might be like, "Oh, I'm insecure," or like I don't know. It's like nothing like substantial, but I like felt like her personality and stuff and then like who she was just fun to read about because it was different than a lot of like female main characters in those types of books.
Yep, agreed. And she had like a backbone. Like she was flawed, but she also like stood up for herself when she needed to. And she just had like an overall really, really, really well written character. Like she is the moment. My fourth most recent 5-star read was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Specifically on audiobook though, because she narrates this book and it is absolutely heartbreaking, especially if any of my 1990s babies grew up watching iCarly. I feel like that's the right demographic, like 1990s, like early Nickelodeon, Victorious, iCarly. If you were an iCarly fan, it's just really, really, really interesting to see the way that she was basically like shoved into being a child actress. And it's heartbreaking, all of the things that were going on behind the scenes that as kids watching this TV show, we had no idea. It's really crazy. And one thing I really loved about this book, this isn't like a spoiler or anything, is that Jeanette's relationship with Miranda Cosgrove on screen is the same in real life. Like they're like best friends in real life, which I really loved because, and the way that Jeanette talks about Miranda in this book and like how much she was there for her and just through everything she went through, it's like very heartwarming. It's like, oh my gosh, yay. Like it's like a happy ending to a very, very, very sad and heavy, heavy book.
Envision them being friends. So it is cool that like they actually are, you know?
Yep, exactly. It was very like refreshing. And the fact that Miranda almost like caught on to a lot of things that Jeanette was going through, but was also a kid at the same time. Like Miranda, based on Jeanette's telling of Miranda's story, she had a very like normal upbringing. Like she wanted to be a child actress. Her parents had the money to do so. You know, they gave her a share of her earnings and all of that, where like Jeanette was basically kept in like family jail by her own mother. I don't want to spoil anything, but like it's a very sad book. It's very gut-wrenching, but also very well done. Like I said, she narrates it, and there is one part in it where while she's reading like the book, she actually starts to break down and cry. And like I started finding myself tearing up. And anytime a book like evokes emotion like that for me, like 5-star.
Yeah. I need to read that one.
Definitely listen to it on your next browsing through Spotify, whenever you're in the mood for like a good memoir or like a podcasty mood. That's like kind of the vibe of it.
My third most recent 5-star is The Last Housewife, which I feel like I just can't shut up about this book. Which I always get nervous when I'm like that because I'm like, then I'm afraid that people are going to read it and be like, are you all right? Like, this is not a 5-star. But I loved this book. This book is by Ashley Winstead. It's like, I don't really love like a dark academia where like you're on a college campus the whole time, but for some reason I've been reading books like that unintentionally. But that's like this book does take place partially on a college campus, but it's more like culty and mystery and like it's like kind of like I don't know, it felt less like dark academia than a lot of the other books that I've read in that category. And I just loved this book. I think about it all the time.
It's been on my TBR list ever since you have talked about it, and there's something about a cult that, like, I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, sign me up." I'll read about it.
It's just so fascinating, like, how I mean, obviously, it's a fiction book, so this isn't a true story, but, like, how cult leaders can, like, just obviously, like, change people's, like, brain chemistry and, like, how they're literally, like, going about life,
Yeah,
and so I just found it so interesting, and it was interesting too because it, takes place in college for her, but then also years later as she's an adult and outside of it, and then her trying to, like, uncover the cult in this, like, present day. So, which I really liked that because you kind of get to see, like, her where she was at in college versus where she's at now.
gotcha. I love that. That's, yeah, it's definitely on my TBR list, and I can't wait to read it so we can chat about it.
Yeah.
We've been watching this Netflix documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. Apparently, it's like taking TikTok by storm. I forget the exact name of it, but it's about those, like, what are they called? Um, they're like about those programs that would come and like take kids in the middle of the night and then put them in like a reform school in the middle of the woods, basically.
Yeah.
And it's gives very much so cultish vibes because the kids are actually going back to the school and they're looking like the camera is literally on them and they're looking through the paperwork and they're finding their old files while they're being filmed because basically like the school just like shut down and they kept all of the files in the school and they're like in there and they're like, oh my god, like here's my file, like here's my disciplinary file, and it's freaking crazy because then the girl goes and interviews this one lady who used to work there and the lady like still believes that spanking the kids was like normal, and it's
That's
like such a cult mentality, and it's like all because this one guy told you to do that, like you literally hit kids.
yeah, I also, like, don't understand the parents in those situations at all. Like, it truly blows my mind.
Wild that stuff like that exists or has existed. My third most recent 5-star was The Women by Kristen Hanna. I've pretty much know anytime I read a Kristen Hanna book, like it's probably going to start at a 5 and then it might like lose stars going from there. But like at this point, this is basically a Kristen Hanna fan page. Am I right?
Yeah, she really can do no wrong in, like, how she writes books. It's just beautiful, and she does such a good job, and I have The Women on my list. I'm so excited to read it, and you obviously loved it.
Yeah, it was great. And a lot of people have asked me about Kristen Hanna and like where to start with Kristen Hanna and like if they should even read her books because they're very much so historical fiction. But I always say that absolutely you should because they're very easy historical fiction books to get into and to follow along. You don't feel like you're reading a history textbook. Like The Women follows the women that served in the Vietnam War, and while reading about what they went through overseas was like very difficult. I come from a military family. My dad joined the military after 9/11. He was in the army. So like knowing what they're going through over there, this was obviously back in Vietnam, back in the 60s. But not only what they dealt with overseas, but what they dealt with coming home. Because obviously we weren't born then, so we didn't live through the Vietnam War, but like the way that the soldiers were treated coming home is absolutely terrible. There was no help for them. They were spit on at the airport on their way home. They were just like the woman who she interviewed for this book like couldn't get a ride home from the airport because no cab driver would want to take her home because she served in the war. And she's like, you don't even understand what's going on over there. And it's basically you go through this like frustration and this depression of her name's Frankie, of her coming home from the war and not having any support, whether it's from her family, her friends, basically anybody, unless they served with her in Vietnam. Those are the only people who she has to talk to. But like any Kristen Hanna book, the last 50 pages of this will literally like, you know, make you cry, make you feel all the feels. And it was a very, very, very well done book and a very well done ending and just perfection. But like we all know she does.
I love that. Well, and it's like that book had so much hype because I feel like so many I mean, TikTok obviously does a lot of great things for the reading community because you can learn about these authors and it can make their careers take off even further than they were. And people were talking about this book, and I'm like, I mean, I don't really think that there's a bad Kristen Hanna book, but it is a lot to live up to. But I've heard just like nothing but great things about this book.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited for you to read it so we can chat further about it, but it is so, so, so good. Like just classic Kristen Hanna. You're going to sit there, you'll read it in one weekend and just be like, wow.
My next two books are Kristen Hanna books, so of course. So the start of this year, I read The Great Alone, and I cannot believe it took me so long to read this book. It is so good. I cannot believe it took me, I don't even know, months of hearing about it before I actually read it.
Fine. I felt the exact same way because obviously The Nightingale is a favorite. And everybody was commenting on any video that I like posted about The Nightingale. They're like, no, like read The Great Alone. And I'm like, I will. And it made me so mad I waited so long because then you read it and you're like,
felt like the premise of the book sounded good, like on my Goodreads. And so I was like, it doesn't even seem super historical fiction. I don't know. I felt like out of the, I mean, I've only read 3 Kristen Hanna books. That was like the least heavy on the historical fiction. It was more so like, I mean, you learned a lot obviously about that time period, but I really felt like it was such a focus on the characters and like their family versus a lot of like the historical things happening at that exact time. I don't know.
yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean because it's more so we're following the family, what's happening like in their lives and around their lives rather than the 1980s. It's more so like what they're living through during it just so happens to be taking place during that certain time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just was like someone like I saw someone's Goodreads thing being like, this doesn't give anything away, but they were like, this is so disappointing because there's like romance aspects in it or something like that. And I was like, I don't agree with that because also it wasn't like suddenly a smutty book. It wasn't like distasteful. It was like you're like reading about someone growing up and like their whole life.
Like, I'm sorry, but like the romance part of that book is the best part about it. Like that ending would have been nothing without that part.
Yep, I completely agree. It's like that really did like hold a lot of like the really heavy content. Like it didn't make it, I don't know, just feel like you finish that book and you're like, okay, I feel okay. Breaks your heart, puts it back together, ends really well, makes you like leave the book being like, okay, I feel like I'm so glad I read that book so quickly too.
Yes, 100%. I'm glad you liked it. It's so good. And like Kristen Hanna is taking TikTok by storm and I freaking love it because she is truly the most like gracious person I've ever talked to. Not that I'm like friends with authors or chat with authors that often, but she's very kind and always thanking everybody for reading her books. And it just like makes you love her even more. Like she's very much so like just a regular person too. Like she comments on my Amazon hauls and will just be like adorable. And I'm like, you are an icon. Do you know that?
Yeah, like you're like, Kristen Hanna, why are you taking the time to comment on my Amazon haul? Like you are so sweet.
Right. Like you should be like writing our next New York Times bestseller.
Wait, I want to ask you, when it comes to the women, where did you put that like in your ranking of Kristen Hanna books? Like, because obviously The Nightingale is like, that's like your book, but like where the women?
So I go The Nightingale at the top, and then I honestly want to do like, I don't even want to say The Great Alone is like below The Nightingale. I feel like they're just equally as good in my opinion. And then I would say, so I would put both of The Nightingale and The Great Alone at like 6 stars, and then The Women is a solid 5-star.
Oh, perfect.
She just came out from under the bed in the back and she looks like all disheveled. Okay, you're just gonna go back. All right.
From her apartment.
Yeah. She just came out, took a drink, and is gone back.
Like, I don't need to be out here for this.
Oh my God, she cracks me up. My second most recent 5-star is Mame by Jessica George. And again, I listened to this one and I really think you have to listen to it to really get the full story. It's basically like a coming of age story about a Ghanaian woman who was born in Ghana, but is raised in London. And I feel like the way that the narrator of the book nailed the accent is just such a major part of this book because of all of the different like terminology that is used in the book, the different languages that are spoken. You really get the full picture when you listen to it. But it follows Maddie, and Maddie is, I believe she's 25, so I'm 26. So I feel like I kind of like, you know, whenever a character in a book is similar age to you, you're like, she's basically dealing with taking care of her sick dad. She has no help from her mom or her brother, and she gets to this point where she's like, I feel like I haven't lived my own life and I want to move out. So she ends up moving out. She gets roommates, she gets a new job, all of these things. And then a bunch of things happen in her personal life. And you basically just like grow up with her throughout like a year or two. And it was just like really good. And it's another book that it's a fiction book, but it reads very much so like a nonfiction, almost like a memoir kind of style.
Okay.
But it was good. It was cute. I laughed out loud at certain points. I felt a lot of like emotion and like connection towards Maddie. I almost felt like very protective over her. So I don't know. I just really liked it. It was just cute and wholesome and good.
I've heard such good things about that one, and then your review on top of it, I was like, I feel like I need to just like add that to my TBR. And it's on Spotify, I think,
It
right?
is. Yep,
So
that's
it's
where I
on,
listened to it.
whenever that's like, it's especially books that like just do like are better to read versus are better to listen to versus read because of accents or a really really great narrator.
Yep.
So nice when they're on Spotify
Yep.
because obviously just if you're already paying for one subscription and then you get a little extra perk. So I
Yep.
need to read that one.
Yeah, definitely recommend listening to it. I feel like accents really make or break it. And in it, her mom like speaks sometimes. And there's I think it might be a second narrator who like chimes in when as Maddie's mom. And again, like they're not accents because they are the way that they speak, but listening to it as somebody who doesn't have that accent, it is very like spot on, and it just gives you like a really good, like well-rounded story. Because I
Yeah.
feel like memoirs, I mean, it isn't a memoir, but like they can kind of get a little bit like redundant, but this one was just, it was fun, it was cute. And again, the accents, pronunciation, it made it like that much better.
Yeah. I also love the cover of that book.
Gorgeous. It's
I mean, for us bright
stunning.
colored girls, it's just like it's a fun
Yes.
book. to
It's
look at.
like I'm honestly want to bring it to like my next nail appointment and just be like
inspo.
make something happen.
Cannot believe this is my most recent. I really thought I've read a 5-star since this, but it's Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. Loved
Okay.
that book. Also, if you're a Kindle girly, it's on Kindle Unlimited, and then you also get the audiobook with Kindle Unlimited, which is nice because there's Russian accents in it, and I think the narrator does a really good job too. But this one's about these two daughters, their mom and their dad. The dad on his deathbed wants his wife to finish this Russian fairy tale that in turn is actually like the mom's whole life story, why she is the way that she is, because she's a really cold, there's not much love coming from her throughout the book. You can tell that she was like very critical on her daughters, didn't really ever get very close with them. And the fairy tale is her life story that explains why she is the way that she is. And just like Kristen Hanna gives you so much insight of her time during this war in Russia, as well as just like so much heartbreaking stuff. But it was literally so good. I was not expecting to like it as much because I haven't heard a lot about it. So I just didn't really know if it would be as incredible as some of like the more well-known ones. But it was so good. And I like really do recommend giving it a read.
Yeah, good to know. I've had it on my shelf for so long. I feel like anytime I go to the bookstore, Ellen Hildebrand and Kristen Hanna are always authors that like I don't even know what the book is about. I just kind of grab them and I know that it's going to be good and I'll get around to it at some point. And that's how I was with Winter Garden. I've had it on my shelf for so long. I haven't reached for it. And now I like really need to, because I feel like that's such an interesting storyline. Kind of reminds me of The Storyteller. It's like a story about somebody else being like read by somebody else.
Yeah.
Kind of like not like Inception, but it's like a story within a story.
Yep. Yeah, I think you'd really like it. I mean, I honestly don't know why anyone wouldn't like it. It may not be your favorite Kristen Hanna book, but I think that it's a really, really good read. And like, I feel like the first maybe like 40% of the book, I kind of was like, okay, like not super invested. It felt a little slow, but like once you get into like the whole story and like she actually starts telling it in full, and like it kind of like she'll only tell like little parts. So it'll be like, okay, tonight I'm going to tell you this. And then the next day we're going to drink our vodka like that they do in their family. And then I'm going to tell you this part of the story. And then eventually she tells the whole thing. And there's a twist in this book that is so like, I didn't expect it at all. And it like, that's what made me sob, because I was like, oh my God, like I didn't expect there to be somewhat of a happy ending here.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. Like I forget like actually, yeah, how much I really did like it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I need to bump that up to the like at the top, because I feel like my next on my radar by her is The Four Winds. Yep. But I really want to read Winter Garden now. I feel like your review just like bumped it to the top.
You'll love it. And I feel like if you're coming off of your most recent 5 stars, you're going to probably need a good book too, or else you're never going to read again.
That's the struggle. I mean, I guess we'll just go into my most recent 5-star, which isn't just one 5-star, it's 3 5-stars in a row, for the Wayward Pines series by Blake Crouch. The first one is Pines, the second is Wayward, and the third is The Last Town. I don't want to say it's better than Dark Matter and Recursion, but like, oh, like every book was good, and they're short, they're sweet, like under like about 300 pages each. Like, what more could you ask for from a series? Like, and you said it and my brother said it. After I finished the first one, I was nervous that the rest of them wouldn't be good. And you both were like, no, like it gets better. And that's so hard to do with the series because usually the first book is good and then the rest are kind of like, eh. But this series, it was just like good on good on good. And the epilogue of the last book, I was like, are we getting more?
The epilogue kind of like messed me up. I was like, wait, so like, and?
But I was looking to see what my followers were saying or anybody that I'm friends with on Goodreads had to say about the last book when I picked it up. And someone made a comment about the epilogue. And I remember I was like just paging through the back of the book just to see like how many pages the book was. And I saw the epilogue title on the page and I saw that it was only 1 sentence long. And the way that it took every ounce of like self-control to not read that one line of the book, like it would have ruined it for me. But one line, like all I saw was that it was one line and I was like, and the way that these books literally just like rocked my world for the last 6 days, I flew through them so quickly. It is one of the most like well done series I've probably ever read. And it's sci-fi. So for anybody who's new to Blake Crouch, he's very like sci-fi, kind of out there, books that are really going to make you think. Rosie and I both love Dark Matter and Recursion, both by him. But this series just like literally blew my mind in every way possible. And it just kept getting better and better and better.
Yep. And like you could never, so I've read this series too. I read it like a year ago. I think it was last year I read it because I was on a Blake Crouch kick last year. I feel like you cannot anticipate where this book is going. Like you're like, even like, I remember the first book, I was like, oh, I bet I kind of know what's going on. And then the end of the first book, I was like, wait, what? Like, how could you even anticipate what is being written about?
Yep. And the first, I don't even know how to like explain what this book is even about, but like the first 70, 80 pages of the first book will have you so frustrated and like angry that this main character is not getting any answers that he's asking. And then you like get to the reason why, and it just sucks you back in like even further. Like I got to the point, I got to maybe page like 70 or like 85 or something. And I texted my brother because he read The Wayward. He was also on a Blake Crouch kick because I introduced him to Dark Matter and Recursion. And he was like, I need more. Like, I need more from this guy. And I was like, I haven't read it yet, but try the Wayward Pine series. My friend Rosie read it. She really loved it. I texted my brother and I was like, dude, I'm like ready to throw the book at the wall. I'm so frustrated. And he was like, yeah. He was like, I felt the exact same way. He's like, you're frustrated, but like, it's so worth it. And I was just like, I don't know what the last time I read a series that the next books are just as good, if not better than the first, probably never. Yeah. And this one is it's absolutely fantastic. And I don't even know what to read next because I'm like, yeah, where do we go from here?
I remember I was like so like enthralled and like invested in the series. Then I was like looking up stuff like, oh my gosh, like what should I read after it? And then I realized that they'd made a TV series after it. So I started to watch that as I do when I'm working from home. And it literally is so bad. Like so bad. It's on the CW. So it like gives the same like vibes as like a Teen Wolf, kind of like horribly shot, really bad like makeup. It's like the way that there's a certain people in this book that like because I more so was like, what do these people look like?
The Abbeys.
Yep. And so that's why I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this because I want to get like a visual of and also it takes place in Idaho. So I was like, okay, like I'm trying to get a visual of like where we're at. And it truly was so bad. It like almost, I feel like that's why I don't even recommend it that much because I'm like, did I like the book? Because I'm like, and then like we're talking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I love the book. I think that watching the series kind of like put a weird taste in my mouth about it because it was so bad.
Oh my God. Okay, well that's really good to know because my DMs are literally flooded with people telling me to watch the series. And I looked up, so when you get the description of the beings that are happening in the book, the Abbeys, I had in my own mind what I thought that they looked like. And I wanted to picture them for myself before I went and looked up what they were.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that the show portrayed them, I haven't watched the show, but I just Googled like Abby's Wayward Pines, is so different than like what I imagined. I feel like theirs are too human like. Mine had more like longer, like alien heads on them. I feel like the things that I were picturing were a lot more alien like, and I don't know, the whole, now I'm bummed because I was going to watch the series, and I told Gavin, I was like, I have a new series for us to watch, but if it's not, I'm probably going to give the first episode a try, but if it's cheesy, then I'll stop.
If I remember right, it's like all 3 books are in like the first season, and then it's like it's really fast, like it's really sped up, and then the second season is, or it might be the first 2 books are in the first season or something like that, and then like the second season is the 3rd book. But it's just kind of, I don't even know if I finished the second season, but, and I mean, maybe you might like it. I just remember being like, I did not enjoy it, but which is a bummer because the books, I read them so quickly, same as you.
Yeah. I feel like that's hard with when any book gets turned into a TV series. Like it's never fully how you imagined it to be.
Yeah.
And it's almost like disappointing. Like I felt that way. This is like a not crazy thing, but with Harry Potter, I imagined Harry Potter so differently than the way that, not him, but like Hogwarts and like everything that you read about. I imagined it so differently when I was a kid that like watching the movies, I was like kind of like let down, but it's like I imagined it so much more extravagant. And I just like, I feel like you really have to nail it. And that kind of annoys me that it almost seems like they rushed it, like putting together the TV show.
That's exactly how it felt. I remember like watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, we're moving so quickly. Like,
right.
Did not expect
like the 3 books, you would think that each season would be 1 book. That's what would make sense. But to jam 2 books into 1 season, like that's a lot. I mean, you could do like a limited series, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much that happens in this book. Like you can't rush perfection.
No, you cannot. I completely agree. And like one of my things that I'm curious about, because I think it's in May that Dark Matter comes out on Apple TV.
Yeah.
And I don't know. How are they going to do? Like, I need to know what, I mean, this doesn't give anything away, like what the box looks like. And I'm so curious how they're going to make the world look in this book, like translated on TV, because it could be so well done, or it could totally flop.
Yeah. And like the way that you imagine the book and the way that I imagine it are probably like so different than each other. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, at least that's why I always read the book first, because I'm always would rather picture it in my mind myself and then be let down by the TV show than like have to push my way through a book because it doesn't match the way that I imagined it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if I watched the Harry Potter movies before I read the book, I would be like kind of disappointed because it'd be like, oh, like I imagined them a lot better than it was. So not that I mean, I love Harry Potter and we watch the movies all the time, but you know,
it's just different.
Dark Matter is wild. I'm like anxious to see how they portrayed, what is it, the last scene when the atomic bomb went off, that like when like their skin is like melting off of them, and that like reading that part of that book, I was like, holy crap, like this is intense.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna reread Dark Matter before it comes out, and because I would like to have it like really fresh in my brain. I think that's it for today's long form video. I hope you guys liked this. This is like fun to be able to like just chat in like a more unfiltered and like longer form. We want to like also take your feedback too. So if like you guys have any specific topics you want us to talk about, whether it's book related, life related, we can kind of mix it up on here depending on what you guys like.
And this is just like our jumping off point. So if there's something, again, like Rosie said, that you want us to change, or any adjustments or any suggestions that you guys have, like we are literally like an open book, and like we're open to any suggestions and any feedback that you guys have. So feel free to comment any video suggestions you want to see going forward. And any, you know, all the feedback. We're here and we're ready to listen, adjust where needed, and we're just really excited to be here.
Thank you guys for being here and chatting with us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yay, bye.
Bye.